Very good at reminding me. I put an announcement on Canvas with everything I'm about to say. So if I go too fast or you're like, wait, what day did she say we're doing that? There is a Canvas announcement that I wrote all this out. So the grading period got extended. I'm sure you've heard that to this Friday. Grades aren't due for teachers till the following Friday, the 25th. So I'll be using next week also as part of quarter one. So here's the schedule. Today we're going to finish the new material from this unit. Today is just a bunch of calculator stuff we're going to do together. Everyone needs to be with me so you don't miss a step. Then tomorrow I'm going to give you kind of like a work day. Tomorrow I have extended the quiz to stay open until Monday at midnight. So you can actually finish it if you haven't. If you want to work on it in class tomorrow, that's an option. Bring your laptops. You can work together. You're allowed to talk to each other during the quiz, even in front of me. You're allowed to have your notes out, even in front of me, okay? So you can work on the quiz in class tomorrow. You can work on any of your homeworks. I know you probably are like, I don't even remember what we did last. Well, tomorrow would be a great day to go through your binder and kind of look at, guys, to go through your binder and find, you could have Canvas assignments up, whatever, and just make sure you have everything done. Ask me for help on today's lesson, because some of you are going to maybe get lost. I don't know, maybe you could. So you might need some one-on-one help today from today's stuff. But tomorrow is a day for you in class, okay? I'm going to do the final homework check on Friday, and Friday and Monday will be your test review, okay? So Friday and Monday is test review, and our last test is Tuesday and Wednesday, okay? So homework check on Friday, quiz closes Monday, test Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll throw that extra credit opportunity in one of those days before the end of the grading period, which is a pink sheet, okay? And as you can see, you all have a new pink sheet. And it looks pretty crazy. It looks like a lot of stuff on there. Feel free to write on it and all of that. I'm going to go through lots of things with you on the calculator. I can tell you from experience in all the years I taught this and just 2 periods I've taught today, that people that are like zoning off, talking, doing something else are lost, okay? Especially for the first couple examples, you need to stay with me so that you can follow the steps exactly. And then pretty much after that, you'll take off without me. By the time I got to the third example, people almost stopped listening to me so they could Zach. They stopped listening to me because they could do the steps so much faster than even me, okay? So I'm always honest with you guys. If something is difficult, I'll tell you, this is going to be a challenge. This is one of those things that we have a hard time with or kids lose points on. This is not one of those things, okay? This is not. Even though it's going to feel like it, especially in the first example, it's muscle memory pretty much. You'll have it, okay? I promise, as long as you're doing it. All right, so let's talk about what we have here. So this first example, we should all be on 138. You're going to be using your graphing calculator to draw a scatter plot. So I'm going to explain what a scatter plot is and create a line of best fit to analyze a data set, okay? So what we will be given is a table of values in these problems that we're going to have to enter into our calculators. And this one in particular gives us certain years and the price per box of oranges in dollars per box, okay? So you can think of these as your X values, these as your Y values, right? And so what we're going to do, let's look at, it's always good to look ahead at what the questions are. Part A is to write, and I know you don't know these words yet, I'm just kind of organizing what we have to do. Write the linear regression model, okay? And later, we're going to use that linear regression model, a function, to estimate a price for 2014 and 2015. Okay, so now let's translate that into English. We're going to learn how to put this in our calculator and come up with an equation that matches the data as closely as possible. Like, you guys know what a line is, right? Has a slope that's constant, rise over run, like up 3, right 2, up 3, right 2. Well, with real life data, it's not going to be a perfect line. The price of oranges isn't going to increase or decrease exactly the same amount every year, right? Weather can affect the crops and the prices or whatever the reasons may be. So it won't be an exact perfect line, and we'll talk about that as we go. All right, so everyone should pick up their calculators, and the first step is always going to be to clear your RAM. You're going to clear your RAM every time we do a new problem, and I did type the directions for you in number 1, or above number 1. So if you haven't memorized that yet, you need to. We all need to know how to clear our RAM. Okay. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a scatter plot, and we're going to type this information in. Now, when you are given your x values in years or maybe months, we don't type in 2006 as like your x value. We were going to either call it 0 or 1, and the problem will always tell you. And for some reason, it's on this sheet, not on this sheet. So it's telling us, and you'll see what I mean on the other problems too, that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So those are the x values we're going to type in, and the y values, you can see, are in the box below. So where do we go for that? Okay. And these steps are typed on here, so feel free to circle, cross things out, whatever you want to do on here. But what we're going to do is go to stat. So stat is right here, and this is what you should see. Okay. And we want to hit, and this is the very first step, stat, enter, because it's highlighting number 1, so I can just hit enter. That's what I want, is that one. And you should see L1, L2, L3. List 1, list 2, list 3. Lists are just X's and Y's. So in list 1, you're going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm typing in 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've typed in 1 through 7. You just hit 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter. And it'll put all of your X values in list 1. So if you want to write that, this is list 1. So list 2 are your Y values. You just arrow over, and it puts you at the top of list 2. And then you're going to type in these Y values. So type those in the same way you did. Be careful, if you type one of the numbers in wrong, your data will be wrong. And I hit enter after the last one, so it's in the brain of the calculator. So you can see I have 7 numbers and whatever here, and the same number of numbers over there. Okay? Everybody at that step? Okay, yeah. So stat. I really don't want to go on until everybody's done with this stuff. So everyone has list 1, list 2 filled in. I know, John, you're almost there. Now, we are going to go to step 2, but you might notice I wrote that this step is optional, and as we go through the next few examples, which are just kind of repeating the same things over and over again, you'll see why this is optional. But to teach to you, remember I told you I'd tell you what a scatter plot is and everything, that's what we're going to do next, is step 2. So what we're going to do is see what these points look like, and we're going to make a scatter plot. A scatter plot is just a graph of these points. It's just these points plotted on the coordinate plane. So anything that has to do with graphing is up here at the top, okay? So what, and it says in step 2, we're going to go to stat plot. Stat plot is above the y equals. See how it's blue and it says stat plot? So we're going to hit second and then that button. And you should see this now. Come on, guys, right here. Yes, you do. Okay, guys, let's go back. everyone was here, right? We had our data typed in. Everyone said they had it in. Then I just went to second stat plot, and I get that. So this is what I notice you guys do. You get scared when you hit the wrong button and you're in a different menu. It's okay. You can move all over the place. It didn't erase anything. Okay? So you can zoom out of stat. There it is. Okay? So don't be afraid to hit a button wrong. Just go back and be like, okay, that's not what I meant to do. Because she hit this and then she was like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, you hit the wrong button. So now hit the second button in that. Remember, anything in blue, you have to hit the second button. Everybody here? Yes. Okay. What we want to do is turn the plot on. Okay? So if we hit enter, it's going to take us into another menu. Let's hit enter. And notice it says off is highlighted. We want on. So you just hit enter, and now on is highlighted. It's that simple. That's it. If you go back to stat plot, you'll see it says on. Okay. Now, another step. Go to Zoom. We haven't really used Zoom a whole lot in this class, but whenever we're doing this stuff and you want to work with the graph, you need to change the Zoom button. And if you scroll down to number 9, or just remember, 9 is the one we use, you just hit 9, but Zoom stat, remember we're working with stat, Zoom stat, hit enter, and what you'll see is the graph of those points. These are the points that you put into your list 1 and list 2. That is called a scatter plot. Scattered plotted points. Are you there? Okay. All right, we're going to do it several examples. Okay. We did not need to do any of that to answer the questions that we are about to go to. Okay. I wanted to just show it to you. So let's go back and see what the question is. Write the linear regression model for this information. This does not make a line, right? What a linear regression model is a model. If we connect these dots as closely as we could to make a line, what would that equation be? That's what it's saying. The calculator will give us that information. Go back to stat. Okay, this is where we started. Remember we put our data in here? We don't need that. We already did that. So we hit stat, and you want to go over to calc. We want it to calculate something for us. So we just use our right arrow to calculate. And it'll always tell you which type we want. This is linear, which is number 4. There's stuff in these menus that I don't even know what they are, okay? You'll use 4 and 5 a lot. Linear or quadratic. That says linear regression, quadratic regression. It just means the model to fit the data we just typed in. We want number 4 because it says linear. It'll always tell you. So I'm going to hit 4, and you should get this screen. Now, everyone just sit on the screen and watch me, okay? I'm going to do something wrong on purpose. Not wrong, but it wants the linear regression model. So I can hit enter, enter, enter all the way through. I want it to calculate it. You're not doing this. And I'm going to hit that. And there, didn't do anything wrong. Let's go ahead and steal this answer. Look what we're looking at. We are getting the A and the B value to plug right into the model for a linear equation, right? That's a y equals mx plus b. We're just calling A that number, B that number. You're not hitting anything. Remember, I said just stay right there. It's okay if you did. If you are where I am, I can get you back. We always round to 3 decimal places unless it's money, and then we do 2. And since this is a model, there's a new symbol for you. It's called y hat. You put a hat on the y. It's literally called y hat. And that means it's a model. I don't mark off if you don't put the hat on top of your y, but you're going to see it, so I want you to know what it means, okay? Y hat. It just means it's a model of some data that we put in the calculator. Okay, let's go back though. No, okay, let me say this instead. The next step is to predict what happens in 2014 and 2015. So we know what happened in 2006 to 2012. We can use this equation to predict what happens in the future, okay? So what we want to know is what happens in 2014, what happens in 2015. What would the price probably be according to this model. So what we do is we go to our table. Okay, now if you go to your table, it's not there. There's no information in there for my Y value. That's because, remember I said I skipped a step? I said I'm kind of doing it wrong. Okay, no matter where you are, you can always get back. If you've been pressing buttons with me or you've been playing with it, you can always find your information. You didn't delete it unless you deleted it. But you can go back to Stat, over to Calc, and then remember we are doing a linear, so we should be here. Okay, so everyone should be here. Even if you moved away, you can still go back to it right here. Look at the step that says store. To be able to work with the table of values, you have to store the equation. You want this equation to be in the brain of the calculator. Now, I showed you, if we didn't have to make a prediction, we didn't have to, I didn't store anything last time. I was able to get the equation. So you can skip that step if there's no prediction needing to be made, but we need to store it. That storing step is right here. Alpha, trace, enter. Those are the steps to store. Okay? And here's where they are. Alpha, everybody look, alpha, trace, and then it gives you a menu. We just hit enter because we're going to put it in Y1. Okay? And so you should just see Y1 there, and then you can hit calculate, and then we already wrote the answer. We already know what the equation is. But look, now if I go to Y equals, it stored the equation there. They typed it in there for me. And now if I go to my table, the Y values are there. So I want to know, the question is, what will the price be in 2014 and 2015? Well, if 2012 is 7, then 2013 would be 8, right? And so 2013 would be 9, and 2015 would be 10. So I'm just going to scroll down to 9 and 10 and write those prices down. That'd be $13 and, I can't see. We're going to do another one here in a second. So if you got lost, don't worry. We're going to do, I think, 4 more together. Okay? So this is, and why did I only go to 2 decimal places? Because it's money. All right? Anything that has to do with the graph are these top buttons up here. All right, let's do another one. Okay, that'll be a little bit smoother each time we do one. All right. Okay, so we're going to start fresh. Everybody. So if you got lost in that, move on. Moving on. Go to example 4. Clear your RAM. Everybody stay with me. If you're doing something else, you're going to get lost. So please, please work with me. All right, the average length of cell phone calls in minutes for a high school student during the second semester, January to June, are shown in the table above. The model is known to be valid for January to September. Okay, what we're going to do is find a quadratic. Remember the last one said linear. This one wants us to do a quadratic, and it tells us to use 0 for January. So it told us that. It's usually 0 or 1, and you will always be told you don't have to guess. Okay? So let's see what they want. Write an equation, okay, and then use that model to do an estimate for July, okay? So we always start by clearing the RAM and then going to stat. Enter. So this is where you're going to type in your X values, which are 0 through 5. Arrow over and do your Y values. Okay. We have them typed in. Now, remember when I did this example a second ago, I went to do the whole stat plot and everything. Remember I said that's optional? We can go look at it, but there's nothing in this question that tells us we need to go look at that graph. We'll see when we do need to, and that's our last example here in a second. For this question, we just need the equation and then the table to make a prediction. You don't have to mess with the plots or anything for that, okay? So I'm going to stay right here in stat, hit stat again, and we go over to calc. And this one said quadratic, which is number 5. Okay, it says it at the top. You know you hit the right button because it says quad, right? And we are going to store it. Why? Because if we have to make a prediction or an estimate, it has to be stored. Okay, if this question only had part A in it, right, we could skip this step, okay, if we wanted to. Alpha, trace, enter. And then just keep hitting enter until you see there's my quadratic. Notice it gives you the model, ax squared plus bx plus c, and it gives you the values for a, b, and c for you to round and plug in. Okay, so we're always going out to 3 decimal places. There's my model. And because we stored it, we can now go to the table and use it to make a prediction for July. So if June was 5, July would be 6, right? So I'm going to go to my table and scroll down to 6. How did I know it was minutes? It's in the description. Okay. Last one, example 7. All the same steps plus 1 extra one at the end. And then we're going to do 2 homework problems together. That will leave 1 for you to do on your own, but I'm going to advise you guys not to do it as homework, believe it or not. My advice is going to be for the 3rd homework problem out of 3, you do it first thing in class tomorrow. Try to remember and get my help and then work on the quiz or anything else. So I'll come back to that concept. But go to example 7. Let's go through those steps again. It should start getting a little easier going through these steps. Okay? The table below shows the height in inches of the transmission fluid that is being drained from a large storage tank. So they give us the time in seconds, 0, 10, and so on, and the height in inches, as you see. So I'm going to get a little fancier here. I'm going to call time t and height h of t. You could still use x and y, okay? I'm just kind of bringing it up a notch a little bit here. Now, guys, when you type this in, you can type in the exact. These are my x values, 0, 10, 20. I'm not converting years or months to a number. These are actual numbers. You can just type them in just like you see. So clear your RAM. Where do we start? What button? Stat, enter. Yep, edit, which is enter. That's right. No, it is. It's edit. And I just said enter because it's already highlighted. So just by hitting enter, it goes to the edit menu. And I'm going to type in 0, 10, 20, and so on. Looking ahead, model the data with a quadratic, okay? There is going to be some estimating. The reason I care about that is because that means I'm going to have to store it, okay? So I'm going to go back to stat again. over to calc, said quadratic, which is number 5. I'm going to store it. So when I get to the store step, I hit alpha, trace, enter. Rounding for some of us will be the hardest part. Use the model to estimate the height. So it's saying, what is the height of this transmission fluid when the tank is at 35 seconds? So it's giving us X and trying to find Y, okay? So what is the height of the fluid? So this is my X, this is my Y, right? That's table. Just use the table, okay? We stored it already. Our table should be there. You can scroll to 35, or you can, I messed up. I'm just going to scroll to 35. There's ways you can get to it faster. We can talk about another day, but this one's not that bad. So 35. So you can see at 35 seconds, the height of the tank will be 59.723 inches. Okay, this is the last step, the last part to do before the homework, and this is something we did before, so you might remember some of these steps. This is saying, how long will it take to drain the storage tank? So it's asking for time. We don't know the X value, but what does it mean when the height is drained? What would the height be? Yeah. So if the height, if the tank is drained, it means it has 0 in it. Okay. So the question is, what is this number? When does the height equal 0? So this is saying, given a y, find x. And we talked about this a while ago. When you're given x, you need to find y, just like we did in part B. You use your table. But for part C, it's giving us the y, and we have to find x. You can't use the table. We're going to use the graph, okay? So this is one of those times you do need to know how to do that scatter plot business. So I'm going to go to stat plot. So everybody stay with me. This is what we did at the very beginning. So second, stat plot. It's always off by default. When you cleared your RAM, it's always off. So remember, you can hit enter and turn it on. So see how on is highlighted? That means we will now see the points, okay? Yes. Stat plot. And hit enter. See how it's highlighted on off? Did you turn it on? Okay, so we're here. All right, then we also want to go to zoom 9, which is stat plot. Zoom stat, I should say. There's the parabola. You can see it's opening up. It's got a positive a value. Makes sense. You can just see part of it. Now, what we want to know is, what is the x value when y is 0? That's an x-intercept, right? When y is 0, what is x? We want to know, what is the x value where the graph hits the x-axis? Think back, we've done this before. So we need to do left bound, right bound, guess. But to be able to do left and right, we have to see where the graph hits the x-axis. I need my window to move over. So window, think about it. I need to see what's happening over there and down a little bit lower. So I'm going to go to window, and I'm going to do x max. It's on 66. What does it need to go to? I don't know. I don't know what it needs to go to. Put something in bigger than 66. I don't know. I picked 150. You could pick 1,000. You could pick 75, and you might see it. Remember, you can change these numbers. I also need to move it down, because if I go to my graph now, I can see that it hits the x-axis, but I can't get to left and right of it. I need a little more space to maneuver around the x-intercept. So going back to window, what am I going to change on this screen to be able to go down? Y min. It's only going to 10 right now. We need to be in negatives. We have to go below the x-axis. So negative something. I don't know. Pick something. You can pick different things than me as long as you can see where it crosses the x-axis. See what I mean? You have to be able to get on both sides of it. And then so an x-intercept is known as a 0. Anytime you want to calculate a min, a max, a 0, all different things, calc. So look where my pen is. Right there. It's in blue. It says second, calc. And I'm going to use 0, which is 2. And you can see your cursor is probably in the same place mine is. It's blinking. That's a perfect left bound. We are to the left of the x-intercept. So I'm going to hit enter. Now I use my right arrow to get to the right of it, somewhere to the right. Enter. Do you want me to guess? Yep. And you can see when y is 0, x is this number. Okay. So again, anytime you want to do anything with the graph, it's these buttons up here. And calc is in blue, so I hit second, calc. I chose 0, and I got to the left and the right of the 0. Remember, 0 is an x-intercept. Right? We'll practice all of this more in the homework. Okay. Find this.
I didn't get it last So I do this and I get graph.
Okay, so clear your RAM. What does omit mean, guys? Don't do. Don't do that one. Yeah, without. Clear RAM. We have a table at the right, amount of money in billions spent on public education from 2010 to 2014. It will always tell you T equals 0 is 2010, so then we can apply the other numbers. It gave us that. What's omit part B mean, guys? Don't do. Leave it out. Okay, so you cleared your RAM. We have new data to put in, and that's where we start, at stat, enter. I'm going to do these first two with you. I need you guys to be doing it with me so you don't get lost. Okay. And it asks for a linear. You have to read. It says linear. So I'm going to hit stat, calc, linear, number 4. I looked ahead. We are going to have to make a prediction, so I'm going to store alpha trace, enter, enter, enter. It tells you to start at 0. You're a graph. Stat over to calc. Linear. Store alpha trace enter. And then just keep hitting enter till you get to. Okay. Then you go to your table. Because it was a quadratic. This is linear. So this is y equals mx plus b. And you can see it. Look at the very top of your screen. It says y equals a, your screen on your calculator. See how it says ax plus b? You just type in, plug the a in the b. Okay, so 2018 would be 8. I went to my table and found, write an answer that makes sense. You can't just write $841.90. That's in billions. Or you could put all the extra zeros on it to make it in billions. That's more work. I just wrote it the same way they did in the chart, in billions. Haley? So you should look at your stat, enter, and see if you type something in wrong. Because that is probably, if you're... Okay. Let's go to 13. Okay, so guys, this is a different looking XY chart. It's XYY. It gives us X, and it's a sneaky way of them slipping in two problems in one, but I'm going to make it nice and simple for you. What this is saying is years, for certain years, what the population of the U.S. was, and then what is the number of drivers in the population in thousands. Okay, so it's just giving us double data, basically. It tells us to let 0 equal 2010, so that's why I put 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? And so let's just put in the information for population first. So just deal with year and population, ignore the final column. So always clear your RAM, stat, enter, and start typing 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Be careful typing in. If you're getting answers that are slightly off from mine, it's because you typed something in wrong right here. And this is just like the other ones. Find the equation, make a prediction. It says linear. So I'm going to go to stat, calc, linear, which is 4. Alpha trace, enter, enter, enter. Haley, did that one work? Let's skip part B because that has to do with drivers, because part C actually has a question, predict for 2018. So I'm going to go to my table while I have the data in here instead of having to type it in again. So for P of 8, which is 2018, it would be 327,483 people. That would be the population prediction for 2018. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing, but for drivers. So you can clear RAM, but you don't have to, because we still want the same X values, right? So no sense typing that in again. When you go back to stat enter, you're going to be highlighted right there on that first Y value. Just type right over it your new Y values. Okay, so I'm going to type these Y values in right on top of my old Y values. Find the linear regression for that one. And then same thing, go to your table, down to 8. And so make sure you answer the question properly. This is in thousands, drivers in thousands. So you can write it just like they did, 215,440 in thousands, or you could put the zeros in there. But if you just wrote 215,440, that would be wrong. You have to show that it's not just that number, it's in thousands. Your data needs to match what we're saying. Your answer has to match the data, that's what I should say. Okay. There's one left for you to do, obviously, but my advice to you is to wait till, you do have about 5 minutes, so you could do it now if you wanted to, or wait till you come in tomorrow and do that first while I'm walking around and helping and see if you can kind of do it on your own. And then you can use the rest of the period tomorrow. Remember to work on a quiz, any homeworks, ask for help on stuff. I'll have your test reviews ready if you want to start it early. Up to you. But tomorrow's a work day. Work on my class, not other people's class.